For those of you that have kiddos and maybe they have an individualized education plan, they have some kind of service plan for speech and language services or occupational therapy, academic resource therapies and remediation, any type of service in the schools. Maybe it's just response to intervention and they're seeing how the child responds in small groups in the school. Will have their strengths been identified? Have they been not just identified, but discussed? So everybody that's interacting with the student is aware of them. That's a big thing that even for people who have been in the field and been doing education and working in education for years, sometimes decades, now because of the demands are so high for educators and teachers, now because there's so much emphasis on testing and there's such a crunch on time, sometimes when we're in these meetings, we go right to what is needed, what's missing, what's lacking, what's challenging, and we don't take a moment and acknowledge the strengths of the child, the student, of the family. Like I love mentioning, hey, mom's really dedicated to implementing what we're doing, to checking in with me, to checking in with a teacher. That's a great strength and it makes such a huge difference. Just taking a moment to acknowledge that and recognize that can go a long way because these meetings, if you just emphasize everything that's a challenge, everything that is a quote unquote weakness, well, no one really wants to really be engaged in the same way. It's really heavy. It can be very sad for the people listening and receiving that information. And it doesn't actually encourage the hopefulness and the okay, I'm gonna go ahead and work with the team on this if you're only thinking of and talking about everything that's not going well yet. Um, I get this feedback from parents all the time. It's like, why they go and they're like, why are they so negative? Like, I get that my child isn't performing at grade level, but why are they always telling me about everything that they're messing up on? It's like they're not seeing my whole child. There are so many things that are wonderful about him, and he's not, it's not being recognized at all. And so I'm wondering if this is going to affect his confidence and he's going to be more self-conscious because if they're talking about this to me, how are they talking about these things with him? Like I'm concerned about how they're presenting it to him and he might just give up and I don't want him to give up. And I get that. I think that's a very valid concern that I hear, like I said, all the time from parents. And so for those of you that are professionals that are working with children and families, that are working with people who have communication needs, whatever their age may be, what if you started with the strengths? What if you actually identified and discussed them and acknowledged them at the beginning of each meeting instead of going right to, we need to work on this, or missing this, or not doing this yet?